Okay, imagine this for a second. You're in a courtroom, right? Standard divorce hearing. Maybe a bit tense, but, normal.
Right. Seen it before.
Then suddenly, wham, doors fly open, military police, FBI agents, they storm in.
Seriously.
Yeah, and arrest one of the people right there, mid-hearing.
Wow. Okay, that sounds like something straight out of a movie. A spy thriller.
Exactly. But the sources we've dug into for this deep dive, they say that's precisely how it happened. A really personal betrayal smashing head-on into, well, national security.
It's pretty wild. So this isn't just a marriage breaking down.
Not even close. The story the sources lay out, it starts with this intimate deception, but then it peels back layers to reveal this much bigger, much darker plot. Foreign intelligence, targeting military families specifically.
And the material we have. It's fascinating. Looks like a narrative account, maybe pieced together from notes, interview snippets, investigation files.
Seems like it. It reads like a thriller, honestly. Starts with this gut feeling, the suspicion, and just escalates like crazy.
Into something incredibly dangerous.
Yeah. So our mission today, using these sources as our guide, is to really unpack this whole astonishing story. We're going to follow the breadcrumbs from that personal unease all the way to international espionage.
Trying to understand how trust got twisted, weaponized like that.
Exactly. And pull out what the sources tell us about vigilance, about protecting what matters, and maybe about these threats that are, hiding in plain sight sometimes.
It's a heck of a story. The personal and the professional just colliding. Let's dive in.
Okay, let's start where the sources do. Staff Sergeant Roy Donovan, Army Intelligence Specialist, about 35, seasoned guy, 14 years in.
And he's got this knack for analysis, right? The sources mentioned his nickname.
Yeah, the Bloodhound.
Yeah.
Apparently, he was just uncanny at piecing together tiny fragments, seeing the whole picture.
So he's deployed overseas. Deep focus on a high-value target mission. Intense stuff. Needs all his concentration.
And the sources really draw this sharp contrast. All his professional skills are pointed outward, hunting threats over there.
But his analytical mind, as they put it, starts picking up these weird signals from back home, from his wife, Bridget.
Yeah, the early signs, according to the material, were subtle, but they add up for a guy like him.
Like what specifically?
Well, on his last leave, he smells cologne he doesn't wear. Bridget just brushes it off. Then later, receipts pop up. Restaurants, stores, like an hour away from home. Her excuse? Girls' night?
Plausible, maybe, on its own.
Maybe. But then the phone calls get shorter, strained. And the source highlights this one specific lie, a text saying she's taking the kids to her mom's, claiming bad reception.
Let me guess. Her mom lives somewhere with perfect signal.
Bingo. Downtown, always perfect reception. So these little inconsistencies, they just start nagging at him, piling up.
And that puts him in this terrible spot, doesn't it? His job is suspicion, finding deception.
Right.
But turning that lens on your own marriage, that's a tough conflict. Is it the job making him paranoid, or is something really wrong?
A huge internal battle, you have to imagine. Okay, so here's where things take a sharp turn. Roy's deployed, remember? He intercepts some key intel.
The high-value target mission.
Yeah. Leads to a successful raid on an insurgent leader. Big win, gets a commendation, everyone expects him to take some R&R.
But he doesn't. The source says he uses this window differently.
Totally differently. Instead of flying home, he basically turns those intelligence gathering skills inward, on his own light, from halfway across the world.
How does he even do that remotely?
The sources detail it pretty well. He uses a home security app Bridget didn't know about, remote access to their joint bank accounts, phone records.
Wow.
He even sets up algorithms, apparently, to flag weird spending, like hotel charges, unexplained restaurant bills, blocks of time she couldn't account for.
He's running an intel op on his own marriage.
Pretty much. And that's how he finds it, the devastating proof.
The security camera footage.
Yep. The sources describe him watching it just stone-faced. It confirms everything. The affair. Some guy in his house drinking his special occasion wine from their wedding glasses in his bed.
It's brutal. Just absolutely brutal.
But here's what's striking in the source material. His reaction. It's not just falling apart. No, his tactical mind, the source says, is already formulating the intelligence gathering operation of his life. He starts recording everything, saving it.
Wow. His training just took over, even in that moment.
Completely. That analytical, tactical mindset kicks right in. He listens to the recordings. Here's Bridget and this guy, the sources name him as Perry Wexler, talking.
Talking about what?
About divorce plans, custody strategies, specifically using Roy's deployments against him. And Bridget, the source says she describes Roy dismissively like he's no hero, Just cold.
Ouch. And the plan?
Perry moves into the house after the divorce is final, takes over.
Into the house Roy paid for.
That's the kicker the source highlights. Text messages confirm it. The house Roy bought with his combat pay, his separation allowance, the money he earned being away from home, serving.
That adds a whole other layer of betrayal, using his service against him like that.
Exactly. Okay, so he's confirmed the affair, the plotting, the disrespect, gutting stuff. But the source material shows this is still just the tip of the iceberg.
There's more.
Oh, yeah. Roy, being Roy, uses his security clearance, his specialized training, to dig deeper. Not just into the affair, but into Carrie Wexler.
And what does he find?
This is where it goes from personal disaster to national security threat. Perry Wexler. The identity is a complete fabrication.
Wait, what? Fabricated?
Totally fake. His real name, according to the intel Roy uncovers, is Pavel Resnick, a mid-level operator for an international intelligence organization.
Oh my God. So this wasn't random?
Not even slightly. The sources detail Resnick's whole method. It was calculated, systematic, chillingly effective, apparently.
Oh, the method?
He targets military personnel with high security clearances. Specifically finds vulnerable spouses, often during long deployments.
Okay.
Engineers affairs, encourages divorces. And then, here's the goal. Maintain access to the children after the split.
Access to the kids. Why?
To use them as unwitting sources. Kids talk, right? About dad's work, where he goes, security stuff at home, innocent chatter, but potentially valuable intelligence over time.
That is deeply disturbing, using the kids like that.
And the sources say Roy wasn't the first. Resnick or his network had apparently used this playbook before. At least 3 other servicemen targeted the same way.
So this is a known threat vector they uncovered.
Seems like it. Roy confides all of this, the affair, Resnick's real identity, the targeting method, to his friend Louis Frost, who'd been helping him make sense of the initial weirdness.
And the realization must have hit them like a ton of bricks.
Yeah, the source quotes one of them saying this isn't just about a cheating wife, it's a matter of national security.
Suddenly the stakes are astronomically higher.
Absolutely. Roy requests emergency leave, official reason, family crisis. Which, yeah, massive understatement, but technically true.
Does his command know the real reason?
His CO, Colonel Barrett, authorizes it. Crucially, the sources say Barrett allows Roy continued access to certain resources, sort of off-book, but with a very strict warning. Verify everything. And act without emotion. Easier said than done, right?
Incredibly difficult. So Roy flies back to the States. Does he go straight home?
No. He plays it smart, tactical, sets up what the sources call a temporary operational base nearby, starts doing his own physical surveillance, coordinating discreetly with trusted military contacts. He calls it Operation Homefront.
Wow, he's running a counter-intel op from a motel room, basically.
Pretty much. He times his return to the actual house carefully. Waits until the kids, Max and Lily, are there, but Bridget isn't.
Get some time with him first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sources describe this brief, really heartfelt reunion, just dad being dad for a moment, you know? But hanging over it is this awful reality he knows is coming.
And do the kids say anything revealing?
Heartbreakingly, yes. Completely innocently. Max chats about Mr. Perry teaching him to throw a curveball. Lily mentions Perry helping with repairs around the house.
Ugh, he's integrating himself.
Totally. And they ask Roy questions about his job, deployments, the home security system, things Perry was likely coaching them or just subtly prompting them to ask, unknowingly feeding this guy information.
That must have been agony for Roy to hear. His own kids being used.
The source says he keeps his composure, testament to his training, I guess. He takes the kids out, documents their time together, gets them ice cream, then sends a coded text to Colonel Barrett.
What did it say?
Something like, confirmation on Resnick proceeding to phase 2. Basically, signaling he had confirmation and the next stage of the plan was a go.
The counter-operation is fully active.
Yeah. When they get back to the house, Bridget and Perry are there, in the kitchen, sources say, discussing the divorce settlement.
And Roy just walks in?
Walks right in. Calm. Strategic. Not like a furious husband, more like an officer executing a plan. He confronts them, and he uses Perry's real name. Just drops it. Pavel.
Ooh. How do they react?
Bridget. Totally shocked, apparently. Perry recovers faster, tries to bluster, regain control.
But Roy's got the upper hand now.
Completely.
Yeah.
Sources show him totally in control. He tells Bridget, fine, file for divorce if you want. But he makes it clear she needs to understand who she's really involved with. Hints very strongly that the FBI and military intelligence are very interested in Mr. Wexler's, a.k.a. Resnick's, activities.
Planting that seed of fear and doubt, letting them know the game is up.
Exactly. Then he takes the kids out again, dinner this time, making sure he has documented custody time, before bringing them home and telling Bridget and Perry he expects them gone when he returns later, sets a deadline, leaves.
Wow. That takes nerves of steel.
For sure. The following weeks, the sources describe as this tense legal battle. Bridget gets a lawyer, Veronica Slate. Apparently, she has a reputation for really going after military spouses and divorces.
So, a hired gun.
Pretty much. And her case, based on court docs the sources reference, paints Roy exactly as you'd expect. Absent father, due to deployments, unstable, maybe PTSD, even uses his surveillance against him as proof he's paranoid.
While painting Perry Resnick as the stable good guy.
It's exacted. Respected, positive influence. Unbelievable.
So who represents Roy?
He hires a former JAG officer, Franklin De La Cruz. Smart move. De La Cruz counters by highlighting Roy's long, distinguished service record.
Okay.
And then he drops the first bombshell in court, carefully avoiding classified stuff initially, focuses on public records, inconsistencies, basically arguing that Perry Wexler is not who he claims to be, which directly impacts the kids' safety and welfare.
Smart. Making it about the children's best interest based on verifiable lies.
Right. But Veronica Slate comes back hard in cross-examination, attacks Roy about using the security system, asks him straight up if he sees his wife as a threat.
How does Roy answer that?
Sources quote his response, very composed. He says he views anyone who endangers my children's welfare as a threat. Direct, chilling, given what he knows.
Doesn't back down, puts the focus back on the kid's safety.
Yeah. But initially, the Judge Holbrook, based on transcript excerpts in the sources, she seems to be leaning towards Bridget for primary custody, views Roy's deployments as disruptive, potentially unstable for the kids. She acknowledges the concerns about Perry, but wants more evidence directly related to custody, not just, general shadiness. It looks like Bridget's strategy might actually work.
Oh no. So Roy's evidence about Resnick isn't landing yet?
Not fully, not in the way needed for the custody ruling. But then comes the moment the sources build towards. Roy asks the judge if he can submit just one document.
Okay. This is it.
This is it. The sources are clear. Nothing classified in this document.
No.
But it's the culmination of his personal intel op.
What's in it?
Resnick's true identity, his connections to foreign intelligence, and, crucially, financial records, showing money flowing from entities linked to Resnick directly to Bridget.
Whoa. Money trail. That connects her directly.
Judge Holbrook starts reading it, and the sources describe her reaction immediate alarm, like visceral.
She realizes what she's looking at.
Instantly, she acts fast, secures the courtroom, no one moves, bailiff immediately closed the doors. Perry tries to object, she shuts him down hard.
The atmosphere must have been electric.
Totally charged, and then right on cue, just as Roy must have coordinated.
The cavalry arrives.
Boom. Doors open again. Military police, FBI agents, they storm the courtroom.
Oh my God. Right there in the hearing.
An FBI agent steps forward loud and clear. Pavel Resnick, you are under arrest for espionage against the United States.
Wow. Just wow.
Perry apparently makes a desperate move, maybe lunges towards Bridget, but they tackle him, cuff him fast.
And Bridget.
Sources describe her as completely stunned, confusion, then just dawning horror as agents approach her too, tell her she needs to come with them for questioning.
She's being detained too.
Yeah, and the source captures this moment. Roy looks at her, says quietly, "This is the consequence of choices, Bridget, yours and mine."
Heavy. So what does the judge do now?
Judge Holbrook immediately suspends the custody hearing. Given the extraordinary circumstances, she grants Roy emergency temporary custody of the children.
Makes sense.
As they lead Resnick away, the sources note his whole demeanor changes. The charming facade drops. All you see is the cold calculation of a predator caught.
His mask finally falls.
Outside the courtroom, Colonel Barrett meets Roy. Confirms they're already rolling up Resnick's network. It's big, spans multiple states. The kids will need serious protection.
And Roy's response?
Sources record it simply. "I'll defend what's mine. Unwavering."
The battle shifts, but it's far from over.
Not by a long shot. The immediate aftermath. Chaos, according to the sources. Intense media frenzy. Roy and the kids are moved quickly to a secure military facility for safety.
What about Bridget? Is she arrested for espionage too?
Not immediately for espionage, but she's taken in for extensive questioning. The FBI digs into her finances.
And they find
A lot. Sources detail over $200,000 in payments to her, disguised, as consulting fees, maybe fake investments.
And the timing
Perfectly lines up with Roy's deployments and significantly his security clearance upgrades. Very damning.
So was she completely unaware, or?
The lead FBI agent, Walsh, his assessment reported in the material is that Bridget was likely a witting participant, meaning she probably knew she was getting paid for something, access, information, maybe passing along details.
Even if she didn't grasp the full treasonous scope, rationalized it somehow.
Exactly. Maybe thought it was corporate espionage or just didn't ask too many questions about her rich boyfriend's gifts. The sources say she starts cooperating, claims manipulation, but she's definitely facing federal charges.
And the kids through all this, how are they coping?
Oh, it's devastating for them, as the source material makes painfully clear. Roy has these incredibly difficult conversations trying to explain their mother's situation.
Heartbreaking.
Yeah. Lily asks him point blank, is Mom a bad person? How do you even answer that? The sources say Roy tells them, people are complicated, trying to give them some truth without completely shattering them.
An impossible task for a parent.
Meanwhile, the divorce case resumes. Different judge now, Raymond Ortiz. Bridget's position is obviously drastically weakened.
Appearing from custody.
Yeah. Denied bail, appears in prison attire. Her new lawyer argues for supervised visitation, calling her actions grave errors in judgment.
But Roy's lawyer,
Franklin Dela Cruz, pushes back hard, highlights how Bridget actively used the children, turned them into, his words, unwitting intelligence assets.
That's a powerful argument. Is there evidence presented?
Yes, and it's crucial. Max testifies via closed-circuit TV. It's gut-wrenching. Sources detail him describing getting special treats from his mom for telling her about Dad's work stuff. He calls it a game.
Oh, that's chilling, calling it a game.
Yeah, and Lily's therapist testifies, too, about the anxiety, the attachment issues she's developed from all the trauma.
The judge hears all this.
Judge Ortiz's ruling, based on the excerpts, is decisive. Full legal and physical custody to Roy. Bridget gets limited, monthly supervised visits, but only after psych evaluations and parenting classes.
What about assets? The house?
Roy gets the house and most assets.
Yep.
Bridget basically gets her personal belongings, facing huge legal bills and likely restitution, too.
And Resnick, what happens to him?
Multiple federal charges. Espionage, conspiracy, facing potential life sentences. And the intel Roy uncovered, it was huge, led to 15 arrests across 3 states, dismantled a major foreign intelligence operation.
So Roy's actions had a massive impact beyond his own family.
Absolutely. Which leads to recognition. He's summoned to the Pentagon, thanked personally for his service, his sacrifice. They acknowledge he potentially saved lives, protected critical intelligence.
He deserves that recognition.
They offer him a promotion and a new job, a position with a brand new unit being formed, the Military Family Security Unit, or MFSU, based in Virginia, non-deployable.
Focused on preventing exactly this kind of thing from happening to others.
Precisely. Using his unique, terrible experience to build defenses for other families. The sources note it gives purpose to the personal tragedy, a way to channel it.
Turning something awful into a shield for others, that's powerful.
All right, let's jump forward a year after that insane courtroom day. How are things?
Sources describe life settling into a kind of new normal. The kids are doing better, nightmares lessening, they're adjusting.
And Roy's new job.
He's thriving in the MFSU role. It's expanding. He's involved in training military families now, teaching them about these specific kinds of vulnerabilities and threats.
Using his experience directly. What about Bridget?
She's serving her sentence, took a plea deal, got 8 years. The monthly supervised visits are happening.
I heard this go.
Sources say they're becoming more comfortable, at least for the children. But Roy, he maintains his distance. Polite, but guarded. Vigilant.
Understandable. Then the source material throws another twist in, right?
Yeah, unexpected. Roy gets a secure message from Agent Walsh at the FBI.
What is it?
Resnick, from prison. He wants a meeting. Claims he has critical information, and he's specifically asked to speak only to Roy.
Whoa. Why Roy? What does Roy think?
Big internal conflict for him, the sources say. Why would this predator want to talk to him? Is it a game? But ultimately, he decides to take the meeting. Carefully controlled, of course. On my terms, as the source puts it. Secure facility. So what happens in the meeting?
Resnick tries to play mind games at first. Asks about the kids, tries to get under Roy's skin.
But Roy's not having it.
Nope. Shuts it down, demands actionable intelligence, or the meeting's over.
Does Resnick give him anything real?
Surprisingly, yes. The sources detail valuable intel, ongoing operations in Norfolk, San Diego, Pensacola, names, methods.
Yeah.
Even points to another operative, Michael Turner, targeting a family named Harrison through their daughters. Similar MO.
Wow. Real actionable stuff. Why cooperate now?
Resnick claims his own former handlers tried to have him killed in prison. They saw him as a liability once he was caught. So self-preservation, revenge, maybe.
Makes sense. What does he want in return?
Contact with Bridget. He actually says to Roy, we were in love, bizarre.
Seriously, what does Roy say to that?
Roy refuses any direct contact, offers monitored letters, maybe. That's it. Strict controls.
Keeps the boundary firm.
As Roy's leaving, Resnick calls out one last thing, claims Bridget never stopped loving Roy. She just couldn't live with the loneliness. Trying one last psychological jab.
Does Roy react?
Sources say he leaves without showing anything, just walks out. Stone face back in place.
And the intel Resnick gave, does it check out?
It does. Verified. Leads to FBI surveillance, interventions. Walsh actually needs Roy's help coordinating things down in Norfolk based on it.
So Resnick's info is good. What about Bridget? Does she try to use the monitored letter system?
Yeah, Roy gets a text through the system. Bridget asking about Max maybe skipping an upcoming visit. Sources describe Roy having this flicker of complexity, remembering who she was. He even types out a response, acknowledging her earlier plea not to poison the kids against her.
But does he send it?
No. He deletes it, maintains the firewall, protects himself, protects the kids. No direct engagement.
Smart, necessary. Okay, let's move forward again. 2 more years pass, so we're now 2 years post-courtroom drama.
How's that new normal holding up?
Pretty well, according to the sources. Kids are older, thriving, doing great in school. Roy's MFSU work is making a real difference. Bridget's still serving time. Potential early release is on the horizon.
And the monitored contact with Resnick?
That had been approved, yeah. Part of his cooperation deal.
Yeah.
Letters between him and Bridget, supposedly screened.
Supposedly! I sense a butt coming.
You sense it right. This is where the sources revealed just an absolutely gut-wrenching second betrayal. A deeper one. Somehow.
Red hats.
Those approved monitored letters, they weren't just letters. They contained hidden messages, sophisticated coded communication using steganography, hidden right in plain sight within the approved text.
No. Coded messages. Between Resnick and Bridget.
Yes, and the decoded content. Horrifying.
What were they talking about?
Roy's current work with MFSU, his schedule, his routines, the specific details about the children, their activities, school stuff, friends. Oh my God, she was still feeding him intel. Using the letters.
And the visits. The realization hits Roy hard, the sources describe. Bridget was using that carefully managed emotional access, the visits, the letters, ostensibly for healing to continue gathering information, passing it to Resnick. The whole thing was weaponized. Again.
After everything. After claiming remorse, cooperation.
All while playing the victim, the manipulated spouse. Did the kids notice anything during the visits?
When Roy carefully probes later, yes. They had been systematically questioned subtly. Max admits telling his mom about the new safe Roy installed in his office. Lily remembers her writing down his travel dates, asking very specific questions about his colleagues, even naming Laura Phillips.
Who is Laura Phillips?
A cybersecurity specialist Roy worked with
Yes.
in nuclear defense systems. Bridget was pumping the kids for info on Roy's highly sensitive work and colleagues. This is staggering. The level of ongoing deception. How does Roy handle telling the kids this?
Agonizing decision for him, the sources convey. He decides he has to be the one to tell them, can't let them find out some other way. He arranges it carefully recorded, with a child psychologist present for support.
That's probably the hardest conversation he's ever had.
Has to be. He explains about the coded messages, that Mom was sharing information about their lives, about his work, with Perry Resnick again.
How do the kids react?
Max gets angry. How? He asks. Lily just starts crying, confused. But why? She said she was sorry.
Oh, poor kids. It's like ripping the wound open all over again.
Their reaction, though, is immediate and sadly decisive, according to the sources. Max just looks at Roy, his expression hardens, and says they can't visit her anymore. Lily, through tears, calls her a liar.
They get it. The finality of this betrayal.
Roy just tells them they deserve better. What else can he say? Later, he gets a message from Agent Walsh. Bridget's trying to make an emergency call, supposedly about the kids.
Another manipulation attempt.
Walsh advises him to refuse. Roy authorizes, no contact authorized except through my attorney. The door slams shut. Hard.
Protecting his kids above all else.
He finds some bittersweet confirmation later, reading an essay Max wrote for school, Heroes in Our Lives. Max writes about his dad, not just the soldier, but the man who responded to betrayal by protecting his family above all else.
Wow. That must have hit Roy hard. Pride, grief, all of it.
Yeah. Leads him to the final painful step. He seeks termination of Bridget's parental rights.
Based on this ongoing criminal activity using the children.
Exactly. The sources call it a necessary but agonizing battle. Some betrayals, especially ones that repeatedly endanger your own children and national security, they're unforgivable. The kids basically lost their mother twice.
A tragic but seemingly unavoidable outcome, given her actions.
Okay, final time jump. 5 years after the courtroom explosion, where do the sources leave Roy and the kids?
In a much stronger place. Max is graduating high school. He's heading to the Air Force Academy, wants to specialize in cybersecurity.
Following in his dad's footsteps, in a way, protecting things.
Seems like it. Lily's thriving too, also interested in cybersecurity. She's a senior.
And their connection to Bridget.
Gone. They no longer use her surname legalized after her parental rights were terminated. That termination was solidified by the attempted espionage charges related to those coded letters.
Makes sense.
Max gives the valedictorian speech at graduation. Talks about resilience, integrity, rebuilding, learning who to trust. The sources highlight him referencing his dad, not by name, but talking about learning how to respond to adversity and protect what truly matters. Powerful message. What about Resnick?
News alert comes through around this time. Pavel Resnick found dead in his cell. Officially, apparent suicide.
But Roy probably suspects otherwise.
The sources imply Roy understands the subtext, loose ends being tied up by Resnick's former employers. Silenced for good.
And Bridget, does she just disappear?
Not quite. She tries one last time through her lawyer, requesting communication, offering bits of information again, still trying to trade.
Still manipulative.
Roy just deletes the messages. He knows the game hasn't changed for her.
Does Lily ever consider contact?
That's a poignant moment in the sources. Bridget's lawyer contacts Lily directly before she leaves for college. Lily, unsure, asks Roy for advice.
What does he tell her?
He emphasizes it has to be her choice. But he talks about finding closure internally, not needing it from the person who hurt you. He reminds her why he had to protect them, the unforgivable nature of this specific betrayal using her own children.
Letting her make the choice, but giving her the context.
Yeah. Lily decides not to meet. She doesn't believe her mother's motives have changed. The sources capture Roy's feeling. Profound sadness for what was lost, but immense pride in his daughter's strength and judgment.
She learned the lessons. She's protecting herself now.
Roy finds happiness himself. He's remarried to Laura, the colleague Bridget had asked the kids about. They reflect on the journey. Laura tells him he built a fortress for the kids, not just physical safety, but one built on truth, principles, giving them the tools to protect themselves.
And Roy acknowledges her role in that rebuilt life.
Yeah. Then one final notification comes through from Agent Walsh, a simple message. B. Donovan, transfer complete maximum security communications blackout implemented per court order.
So Bridget moved to max security. No more contact possible.
Yep. Total communication blackout. Her choices led her to complete isolation. A final, stark consequence.
And Roy and the kids.
The sources conclude showing them moving forward, helping Max pack for the academy, Lily starting senior year. Lives profoundly shaped by this, yes, but not defined by it. The fortress stands.
Roy's purpose remains clear. The enemy got inside once.
But as the source puts it, that breach had been sealed. The damage repaired, the lessons learned, never again.
Wow. What an absolutely incredible, almost unbelievable story the sources weave together there. From, like you said, marital suspicion.
To a full-blown national security crisis unfolding in a divorce courtroom. It just hammers home the devastating fallout from betrayal, personal, and, well, national.
And the resilience needed to navigate it. Roy, the kids, remarkable, really.
It really does highlight how easily trust can be twisted, exploited, especially when someone vulnerable meets someone truly predatory.
And it makes you think about those skills. Roy had the critical thinking, the vigilance, the analysis, how vital they became in a place he never expected to need them. His own home.
Definitely. This story, laid out by the sources, it's extreme, obviously, but it serves as this powerful reminder, doesn't it, about the complexities that can hide just under the surface.
Yeah, and the importance of protecting what really matters. Family, integrity, security. These unseen threats, they're maybe closer than we think sometimes.
Vigilance isn't just for soldiers on the front lines, is it?
Not at all. It applies everywhere.
So, thinking about Roy's journey, From bloodhound analysts tracking insurgents to building this fortress of truth and resilience for his own kids after such a profound breach, it leaves us with a pretty challenging thought, drawing from these sources.
It is.
Given how trust can be manipulated, how these hidden operations can play out, how well do we really know the people closest to us, and what quiet battles, what unseen operations might be unfolding nearer than we imagine?